Welcome to My Spoonie Sisters, featuring stories from special guests dedicated to empowering those with chronic illness. Our goal? To connect people and provide the support and tools they need to live a better life. For those with chronic illness, our energy levels just fade faster. We must be more purposeful with the spoons allotted to us. So grab your coffee or tea, sister, and tune in as My Spoonie Sisters share stories of living with chronic illness. Hi, my Spoonie sisters. I'm your host, Gracefully Jen. And as usual, I feel like I always say this, but I am so stoked to bring you two of my favorite people. They've both been on the podcast before. I've got Andi Byers and Danielle Bryant. I'm sure you all know them. And if you don't, you got to get to know them. But we are here to talk about processing feelings of betrayal. Oh my gosh. How do we even begin to unpack that? Hi, ladies.
That's a big unpacking.
It is a big unpacking, but I think that the conversation will lend to change, the change agent within ourselves to be able to identify the emotion, process it safely, and be able to navigate through what the next step looks like without any regression. So I'm super excited.
Love that.
So, Andi, I mean, how do I, words are not my friend. Has there, see, I can't even think of a question. Yeah.
So, let's say this. Let's start with identifying that we will all at some point in our lives feel as if we have been betrayed. And navigating those feelings can be incredibly challenging and an emotional, turbulent experience. Let's start there, right? At some point
really
in our life, we experience some form of what we interpret to be betrayal. And it starts super young. It starts when we're little, right? When the first friend takes the ball and says, I no longer want to play with you. We are hurt then, but we're too young to understand how to safely navigate that, right? And if adults that hold our hands through it also don't know how to safely navigate that, we do what we see, right? So then we become the adolescent and the adult that has always had an issue with the feeling of betrayal, which then leads to the feeling of abandonment. When all along, we probably just outgrew the space or the person or the thing or the place. And sometimes when people leave or the thing that hurts happens, the door that closed needed to close in order for you to thrive. And we don't always see it while we're in it. Oh, yes. We don't always see it while we're in it. But when the door closes, it's not to suffocate us because windows pop open. It is to shut us out from the thing that's preventing us from thriving. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Totally. And just to take it back a step really quick. I love what you said there. Because everything that we go through in our lives as adults is basically based on an experience or in a happening as a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
These personality traits that we have created or have adapted to or are accustomed to. And I think it's important to remember that, betrayal, the definition of betrayal is basically a violation of our trust and our confidence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there seems to be a lot more betrayal when it comes to even, a moral standard, right? Which can be different, can vary from person to person. So I just wanted to mention that because I think that for me personally, I struggle with betrayal so much because of my childhood and the things that happened to me. And sometimes it's hard for me to get beyond feeling betrayal, as well as really deciphering, was that really betrayal that that individual was trying to do, or did they know they were doing it? So that's my ad at this juncture.
Yeah. And I think my add to that is also kind of to go along with that from our childhood, how we deal with or what we dealt with back then transitions into our future and how we deal with it now. And
Mm-hmm.
so if somebody hurt me in such a way as a child and my response was to go into anxiety mode, then quite frankly, that's probably how I'm dealing with it as an adult. Because every time I deal with that situation again, it just brings back that hurt, the feelings, the anxiousness, and I just go into panic mode. And we have to retrain our brains on how to not go into that mode again. And that's not easy.
It is not. I'm going to hit you with some unpopular opinion.
Ooh.
I love a good unpopular opinion. So, do you think that the feeling of betrayal is because as as younger versions of us, we never truly understood the vulnerability piece. Like when we're young, it's go play with them, go be friends. So you're taught to be vulnerable enough to make friends, but not really taught how to navigate if that you want to go be vulnerable to be friends and it meets with, I don't want to be your friend. The wall of the rejection, the initial feeling of betrayal, the first time somebody says, I don't want to play with you. But we're taught to be vulnerable, put yourself out there, go make friends, right? So that memory starts super early. And then as we become adults, and especially in the chronic illness world, right, we have a harder time allowing ourselves to be vulnerable with people out of fear that they will see the illness and not us as a person, and then throw the illness back at us later. Like, it's too heavy for me to be your friend because you never go anywhere, or you're always sick, or this is always your reason to not want to do, or you can't really be that sick because I saw you doing X, Y, and Z, because you get the 15-second picture perfect version of what a nice moment of my life looks like, because we don't always choose to highlight or show the dark. But every day, every moment of the day, our body feels the dark. We just choose to be intentional to not let it always consume us.
So good. So good. Um, there's a number of things we could hone into when we're talking about betrayal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so many different elements of our lives. Um, and here we are, the three of us, all spoonies, all dealing with chronic illness, and all dealing with that perception that, oh, well, it can't possibly be that bad. I mean, Danielle's hiking a mountain and like she's super happy all the time. Something that I choose, right? Because I have lived in the monotony as well as the negativity of the world that surrounds chronic illness, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel sorry for me mentality. And, as I kind of addressed last week in a daily dose, when I talked about how individuals can be a part of emotionally destroying somebody, and I was talking about something completely different, but I mentioned my infusion, and so people mostly think I was probably talking about the fact that I had just gone through an infusion and very little people like showed up during that, right? Which is often, I've gotten used to that though, so it doesn't really hurt me like it used to, because
Mm-hmm.
it's my life and not a lot of people are going to understand it. And not a lot of people are going to understand how I deal with my pain, which is, if I'm in a lot of pain, I'm going to choose movement, right? Like that's my thing. and because without it, I can't get out of that pain. So an adult betrayal, I think, hurts so much worse
Mm-hmm.
because as an adult, we understand so much more and we see so much more. And I know for me right now, it's a big struggle for me to get over that little hill of feeling so betrayed by someone who I thought was my friend,
Yeah.
you know? So Andy,
Do
I'm hoping you're going to clear that up for me today.
we're gonna try. I too have been in some relationship dynamics that when it ended or when it's coming near the end, you can kind of feel it. You can kind of feel as if there's just a lot of the times we feel or we see the warning signs leading up to the action that is about to break us emotionally, right? We see it and we feel it. We just don't listen to our intuition, right? And a lot of the times, as the things that are happening is the intentional overstepping of a boundary you have already put into place. And you put the boundaries there to protect your space, your mental health space, your physical well being. The boundaries are there. And if you're in a relationship dynamic where it's a mutual respect of said boundaries, anytime that boundary is violated, it was an intentional act on either person's part, right? So sometimes it's an error of communication, but oftentimes it's not. It's the intentional act to overstep a boundary.
Well, let me ask you this. And
Mm-hmm.
I am all about boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
But so there are spoken truth boundaries, right? That I think that we don't have to, I don't think you should have to say out loud, right?
Correct.
And I think a lot of people today believe that a boundary that is set by us should be spoken, right? In a
Right.
sense, right? Like they're like Andy, listen, I love you and I like our friendship, but here's where I'm at today and I have to almost set a boundary, right? Like we don't do that, right? Like I very rarely do our boundaries discussed with people.
Right.
And so when I'm talking about a stated boundary or like a spoken truth boundary, these are boundaries that I think are common sense. Okay.
Right. Because
Right.
in a healthy relationship dynamic, you don't really actually have to put it into full blown words. If you can effectively communicate safely with the people that are safe for you, you never have to say, this is my list of boundaries. A no is a no, and they take that no as a boundary. Do you want to talk? No.
No.
Bam. They're like, okay, I'll give you some space.
Right.
But
But
then on the other side of the no, as a complete sentence and a boundary, it's she never wants to talk about anything, then that person's not safe for you. That's an ouch space because they don't understand that you yourself need processing time. How can you effectively communicate with somebody else how you're feeling if you never have time to process how you're feeling? So
true.
sometimes the boundaries never have to be said. A simple no is in fact a boundary. Tell
And
me about your day. Nah. Okay. Boundary.
but I think too that even if you need that space, right? Like even if you
Hmm.
need that boundary to be set and people don't give it to you, right? People are forcing themselves on you and not allowing you to have the space to process, which quite frankly is a trigger for me. um,
Hmm.
with you because I'm the type of person who has to step away from a situation. Um, because I can't. Sometimes it's just too much for me. Um, but I'm also very capable of expressing my needs, right? And
Hmm.
our spoken needs also there within our spoken needs there is a boundary formed as well, right? I mean,
Right.
you tell somebody this is what I need from you. I need space at times. I need to be able to go work out. I need, um so I mean, we could go in so many different directions with this
Right.
conversation, and I don't want to do that. And so I don't want to cloud things or anything like that. But I'm just trying to figure out when people, getting back on the betrayal part of
Mm-hmm.
it, and knowingly feeling so hurt from somebody betraying you, and really trying to process your feelings around that so you can get out of that. I can't believe they did this. I can't believe they did this, which is what we do all the time. And it's really, it's just moving past it, I think, which is a real struggle for me at the moment.
For me, I sit in the space where I ask myself, like I'm constantly reevaluating things, right? And so in my as of late recent betrayals, whatever, right? I look and I go, how could this have played out differently? Like, did I at any point could I have called knock it off when the stuff started to like pile on? Could I have then, even if I never ever verbally expressed the boundary to begin with, right? The unspoken boundaries is you can tell when someone's visibly uncomfortable. If you choose to continue and you can tell that the person is visibly uncomfortable, you violated the second non-spoken boundary because you see that they're visibly uncomfortable. That's an intentional act. But in processing the betrayal, you ask yourself, what could I have done differently to have stood up for me more? Right? And
Yeah.
if all of the things you're like, maybe I could have, okay, don't beat yourself up for it because, going forward, in order to protect myself, right? And boundaries are for everyone, right? Boundaries are for everyone. And people just like, you're always throwing boundaries. The boundaries is to protect you and me. Like, I'm protecting you from what it looks like to be on Isolation Island, or me snapping, you getting like the raw version and not the bubbly Andi. Like, I'm protecting you. But if you so choose to continue to overstep, the reaction you get from me, if it hurts you, you asked for, like you knocked on the door and you came in here for it because I now know how to safely navigate emotions within myself. And so, but it took, I want to say, it took the biggest, most heartbreaking betrayal for me started while I was on active duty, right? The military doesn't necessarily really care that you don't feel well, and they care even less when you're a woman. So as I'm going through the different things popping up, the Air Force medicine was not good to me. Immune system's shutting down, right? And they're throwing stuff at it. And someone that was supposed to protect me, my supervision, started the rumor that I was faking. And then I was like, wow, I went through that for years. I was the one that just didn't want to be at work. I didn't want to go to PT. I didn't want to do the things. But I was also the one that was also always active. And that went on for years. And then 2020 happened. And for months up until March 10th, I was like, something doesn't seem right. And I'm going back and forth to the doctor. And they're like, whatever, she just doesn't want to be at work. Sudden cardiac arrest. When they looked back in my charts, all of the things I kept saying was happening, and that could have been prevented. The betrayal was then, you're too young to have had a heart attack. There's no way that they had to bring those paddles out. Okay. And I spent so much time angry at that betrayal. What I realized is that there's layers to that. And one day you're like, I'm good. And the next day you're not, because you're going to see a trigger or something's going to remind you of the thing. It requires patience. Navigating it requires patience, not with the person that betrayed you, but with yourself. As you go through the non-linear healing, it's going to be a yo-yo. The self-reflection of did I really do something to deserve that? The answer to that is always no. You never did something to deserve that. No one ever does something to deserve that. right? And it takes the commitment to understand that we're going to have those moments where we're going to instantly feel like it was us. But it's not always.
I agree, right? Because in reality, we always have our truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what other people think, feel, or say, we always have our truth, and it's important to stand tall within our truth. I want to ask you this. Do you think it's appropriate that when you feel betrayed, to close a door?
Calling all Spoonies. As a host of a chronic illness podcast, nothing lights up my day more than hearing from you, our incredible listeners. Whether it's a topic close to your heart that you want us to uncover, or you are keen to show your own journey as a guest on our show, your voice matters. Living with chronic illness can often feel isolating, but through the power of podcasting, we can come together as a community to uplift, educate, and inspire one another. Your stories, insights, and questions drive the conversations we have and the topics we explore. So if there's something on your mind, a story that you are just itching to share, or a guest you'd love to hear from, don't hesitate to reach out. Your voice is not only welcomed here, but celebrated. Let's continue to amplify the voices of those living with chronic illnesses and create a space where everyone feels heard, supported, and empowered. Together, we are stronger.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. Because the space became unsafe. And if it will become unsafe once, the likelihood of it becoming unsafe for you again out of comfort, it's okay to close the door until you can process the things and they can understand where you are. And until you feel safe, that door doesn't open. And sometimes that door never opens again. And it's to keep you safe. And you realize once that door closed and that person, place, or thing left, you're actually happier and probably less stressed, less overwhelmed, and just at peace within yourself. You realize that maybe you attached yourself to that particular relationship out of fear of being alone or having to process or walk something alone. But if the person that you're walking it with isn't safe for you, y'all both walking off the same cliff. Y'all both walking off the same emotional cliff.
So I often choose when someone has revealed to me who they are, or and again, sometimes this revelation can be extremely positive, but there are a few occasions when it's very negative, right? And the hurt is, again, that what we're talking about, that word betrayal is just so deep. So for me, yeah, I typically just close the frickin' door, right? Because if I don't, and I try to make it appear that it was okay, then I'm allowing the behavior to continue, but I'm also questioning my own worth.
That part. That part.
Mm.
And that's part of the cycle of wounded puppy syndrome, where
Totally.
we saw the thing or the person and we're like, I can fix this. I can help make you happy because I made myself happy. I could totally help make you happy. And then you realize that sometimes they have to actually intentionally want to change, and those conversations get darker and darker and darker. And we kind of get sucked into the emotional downfall of the dark conversations that we ingest. And we start to think, is it me? When they start getting snippy and things start getting weird, it's like, did I do something to you? When you never really did. So if you ever had to second guess yourself in a relationship dynamic and go, and it's more than once, did I do something to you? Because people are entitled to bad moments and bad days, right? But if more often than not, you have to look at it and go, what is your deal? Did I do something to you? And you know that you didn't, then that space has always been an ouch space. It was never an even it was never an even playing field. It had always been a relationship dynamic of opportunity in some sort. Right?
That and that hits me that hits me right there. Opportunity. It was a relationship of opportunity. Is gosh, I so I have constant people coming into my life, right? People, and they run the course of their season.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of so many people that I know, right? So I was addressing this with my therapist, that I know a lot of people because of all the things that I do. I run a construction company. I'm active in, I speak. I run this nonprofit. I do bodybuilding. I'm hiking the mountain, and I'm constantly handing out my stickers, and so I I literally run into people wherever I go. And it appears, though, that people get a sense of me right away because I'm super authentic, right? I mean, you hear me speak, people can be very, very in tune with that. I'm like, oh my gosh. And they love that about me. And that's who I want to be. It's completely authentic. And I think some people get shocked about some of the stuff I say at times, but it's my truth. And I do live in my truth. But I feel what it also does is allow people to see more into me than I probably should be letting them see, because it feels like people come to me because there is an opportunity for them.
Right.
Right? Like, oh, if I can get Danielle on my side, oh, well, maybe she can come over and do a remodel for me and, won't charge me very much money. Or maybe if I need a medical bill paid, she can do that for me, and it's because of I want to help. So I just find that very interesting that you
Yeah.
made that correlation there with the opportunity. And again, it goes back to the whole discernment thing.
Right.
So,
Is the discernment to realize that not everybody is supposed to have that level of access to you.
right. Which I just left. I just left. I got my truck wrapped last week, and I just left. And the guy says, "Why is your phone number not on your truck?"
Why would I want you to
And
randomly
I
call me?
said, because I don't want people to have access to me in that manner anymore. I have learned my lesson.
Yes, not everybody is supposed to have that level of access to you, and I learned that, I'm constantly learning. In here, this heart muscle. It's an orbit. It's an orbit,
Mm,
and the betrayal has layers, right? Betrayal. These offenses, they come in layers. It could be something just completely ridiculous, and you can overlook it, perhaps. But betrayal has layers, just like your heart is an orbit, and they just get further and further away from your center until you close that door. That's
mm,
the isolation island. Once you're on that island, it means that I could then take this boat and cruise somewhere else and be okay. Because if I spend more time not okay than I do okay in this relationship dynamic, or if I'm losing sleep and I spend more time up thinking about or replaying a conversation like, am I the a-hole? Then it was time for me to divorce that relationship anyway. Right? So when you're looking at your, and Jen has heard me here say this a lot, when you're looking at the spaces that you go in and the dynamics that you create with people, I use the acronym OUCH. Is this open? Is it understanding? Is it compassionate? Is this going to be healing? If the answer to any of those, is it open? Nope. Is it understanding? Nope. Is it compassionate? Nope. Is this a healing space? Nope. It's not a safe space. That is an ouch space. One of any of those four makes it an ouch space for you. And until they can walk into that space, or you can walk into that space where you no longer need a band aid, there's no more little owies, it's no longer ouch for you. Then you can reopen
mm,
that door, because the most important part of the equation is you. And you can't give or be for you or anybody else if all you give and be is in ouch spaces.
Mm.
You have left fragments of you in ouch spaces.
So I have a word I want to bring up.
Mhm.
Opportunist.
What?
Not everyone starts out as an opportunist. Now there are people out there that's what they do. What can Andi give me for free? What can Danny give me for free? What can Jen give me for free? There are those kind of people out there. But then there are those ones that are either sneaky in how they're doing it, or even worse, the ones that start as a friend and it's all good meaning. What advice can you give? Can you help me with that? Can you do this for me? And then before you know it, they're not giving anything. They're not serving you in any way. There's not really a friendship there. It's turned into that opportunist thing.
Oh, I've been there.
And we have to be so, so careful to protect our own hearts. And that's so not easy, because there are people out there that they are looking to dig their way in somehow and take advantage.
And that's where discernment comes back in, right? Is when we dial back into our center and go, what is it that I need? Like, because we attract what we project. What is it that I need? Where am I lacking in my cup where I can pour into me to project the thing I'm trying to attract, right? It's the discernment to know that not everybody right out the gate is supposed to have that level of access. They got to earn that. And that takes a minute.
Yeah.
They have to earn it, and that takes a minute. And so
something just happened.
You pause for a second and you go, this started off regardless of how it ends, right? If the intent on your part was always genuine, although it may suck or hurt to close the door, once you realize that your genuineness was not equally matched or met with genuine, once you get that feeling, it's okay to go, this is not safe for me, and I can no longer be in here, right? I can no longer be in this dynamic because it's not safe for me. And when I started doing that, my mental health drastically improved. Like, I battled depression and anxiety, and I still battle depression and anxiety. And I know that if I don't close doors on things that are not emotionally safe for me, it's a domino effect. My family suffers, my business suffers, and I'm up crying. Everyone else is asleep. Like, the person that did the offense, the person that did the betrayal is sleeping like a baby. We're carrying the weight of an intentional act on their part, and they're sleeping like babies. And so in that moment, you're like, it's okay that I had to close that door. It's okay.
I feel like I missed something just then because my Wi-Fi, something happened and all of a sudden I got dropped.
It's okay. So we were talking about...
But you're back.
I'm so sorry about that. But gosh, I wanted to add something to what you just said, and then I lost all cognizant, value because I was, but we were talking about the opportunist.
Mhm.
And Andi, I just want to say that your delivery is so good.
Thanks.
So I really, I value being here. So one of the things that last week in therapy, my therapist had me leave with is a very interesting term. And she said, this week, when you are asked, if anything is asked of you, I need for you to internally say to yourself, how does that benefit me?
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm not comfortable. That sounds so narcissistic. And she says, no, this is the process that I need you to do. So anything, it's also, as well as very concentrate, hone in on energy and effort by people that are asking things of you.
The push pull, that's for real. If you're being pulled, If you're being pulled more than you're being pushed toward you thriving, if you're being pulled away from your goal more than you're getting pushed toward being a better you in these spaces that are supposed to be safe, and they can't come with stipulations, right? You can't go, I love you, but, right? I want you to thrive, but I want you to succeed, but this is a safe space, except it never comes with stipulations. It never
No.
comes with stipulations. So Jen and I were talking about opportunities and like how to, if it didn't start off that way and it became that way. And of course there's going to be like, you're hurt. I was telling Jen, I'm like, in this case, and I've had this happen, if you go into that relationship dynamic and you know you went in with genuine intent and it was all goodwill, right? All good energy on your end. And it then it fizzles out, you realize that your energy is not being matched. You're being pulled away from peace, right? It's okay to close that door. It's okay to close that door. Because why would you want to be pulled further away from peace? And although relationships are work, they're not 40 hours a week work in a safe space, right? You shouldn't be going to sleep playing back conversations and thinking, am I the butthole? Or did I do something? Is it me? You shouldn't be playing back conversations up at night and crying, because the person who did the offense is probably sleeping like a baby. The person who did whatever emotional dumping, because they're used to being able to emotionally dump. Here's my problem. I'm not going to really ask you what your problem is, but here's my problem. Gotta go. Talk to you later. Deuces. And because we want to fix it, we're now up processing their problem. What did we do with the list of things that we needed to process for us? So when your therapist said, how does this serve me? How does it serve me? How does this make me better? How does this help me grow? Is this literally, is this going to drain my battery to where I can't deal with my stuff? To where I can't choose me, my mental stability and my emotional health? If me taking on your stuff now keeps me from being able to do my stuff, that's not okay. And if for them to think that it's selfish for you to go, got to take a knee on this one, then that meant they were never safe. They really were a person of opportunity. And as long as you were fixing their problem, you were always going to be fixing their problem, because they didn't have the discernment to seek ways to fix it themselves. And then we choose to stay in that dynamic because we're helping, right? Helping hearts want to help. And we stay there, we stay there, and we stay there. And then one day, something happens that makes us realize, hold on, at some point, the warm exchange, the handhold, you're now a teenager in the handhold game. You can cross the street by yourself. You just choose not to. And as long as I never let you cross the street without me holding your hand, you will always hold my hand. And sometimes your holding my hand is what's weighing me down. And when you can be honest with yourself and go, how many rocks did I put in my pocket that no longer need to be there? You feel a whole lot lighter when you start emptying out those pockets.
That's right. Getting rid of those where reciprocity doesn't exist.
That part. That part.
Yeah.
I'd let go of a lot of relationships from people I've known for many double-digit donkey years, because I realized that dynamic was never a healthy dynamic for me. It was just a safe space. It was safe for me because it was familiar, not because it was ever actually safe. It was safe because it was familiar, not because it was a genuinely safe space where I could grow and evolve. What I realized was all we ever did was talk about all of the bad stuff. It was always a problem and never a, I'm doing this as a solution. It was never a, hey, how you doing? It was more so, hey, how you doing? I need. Hey, you're good? Cool. I was wondering if you could help. When it became a rush through, not actively listen to how I'm doing, I knew it was time for me to start taking steps back, because you don't just throw out how you doing and move into another sentence, right? There's a pause there where you wait for a response. And it's not, hey, how you doing? Bam, share this. It's, hey, how you doing? And that, hey, how you doing? The response isn't supposed to be shared with the world. It was you being vulnerable with the person that asked. And the minute that that response with that person got out of that person's mouth to someone else that you didn't share your story with, it's your story to tell. So for every time somebody else tells your business that was supposed to be your safe, vulnerable space, that is them initially showing you them at face value. And it wasn't a slip of the tongue. And if they will come to you to talk about someone else, they will talk about you to someone else. You are not the one off where you're the golden child and no one will say anything. If they will come to you with someone else's mess, they will bring you up in some mess to somebody else.
Exactly. And it just goes to show that it doesn't matter how old we are. It's still that mentality of like when we're in junior high and they're like, psst, I got someone's secret. Now I got to tell you.
Some of the stuff that I deal
And
with as an adult, I don't even think I dealt with in junior high and high school.
I kind of want to pivot just a little tiny bit.
Uh-huh.
What I love about our friendships and our community that we built together on our platforms is that I know that you guys are genuinely friends. And my husband kind of teases me about this. He's like, no. They're acquaintances. You've never met these people face to face. No, I think you can build genuine friendships, not even face to face in person. But I'll tell you, move away from where you live and see how genuine the friendships you had in person are.
Oh, true story. True story.
Oh, so true. I do want to cap on that a little bit, Jenny. I've met people on my platform that I thought were my really dearest friends, right? And these are people that obviously were at arm's length, right? They're in a different state or whatever. And people I've supported financially, like, this, I, I'll just put an example of I sent a TV to somebody's house, right? And continued to, sponsor events or do nice things. Then when I met the person in person, and one of the things I'll never do again is I will never allow somebody I've never met before to stay at my house. Never. Mark my words. Because challenging things is I thought that our values aligned, an understanding aligned, compassion aligned, empathy, all of those things aligned, because again, this was a relationship that I created and went on for years, only to feel like when they got to my space that there were even some conversations that occurred where almost like they wanted that opportunity, if you know what I mean. Like, oh, I can't afford that. And then next thing you know, something didn't go right for, one evening, or maybe they overheard something. And the next day, I leave the residence to go and do something, and then come back and they have left. Yeah. So, and then when I held them accountable via a text, they had blocked me. After they had stayed at my house for a week, I had made all these arrangements, these events, doing these lovely things for them at no cost to them, mind you, to be treated like I was basically nothing. That to me is there was a little form of betrayal there, as well as the opportunistic, with no explanation, mind you, not really an explanation. And quite frankly, yeah, I shut that door because I'm like, how dare you come into my home?
That part.
Okay. How dare you do do this behavior when just the day before, it was really interesting though, because the day before the woman states that if she sees something that somebody doesn't like or that she doesn't agree with, she exits right away. Okay. That was a conversation that was had. And then the next day, this woman makes a decision, which I thought was in just poor judgment and poor haste, as well as I felt, I felt a little betrayed, but I also felt used,
Yeah.
taken advantage of. And I, till this day, that door is shut. Like, I'm sorry. Like, you don't act like a child. And we didn't even have a disagreement. Nothing. Like, I had to go to training. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And the thing is that I'll own my shit, but I also, if that was me, the role was reversed. And maybe if something made me uncomfortable that happened within the roof of the home, I would say, hey, I would have a personal one-on-one conversation with somebody, looking eye to eye, and I would express, hey, this is how like, again, it's this unknown of like, are you kidding? Like, and so, yeah, again, another reason why I don't hand out my phone number, but another reason why I wouldn't let anybody stay with me
Well, I
again
mean,
either.
all
Um,
valid reasons. Um, and you feeling used is those feelings of betrayal and feeling used, valid. The thing
yeah,
is, she was an opportunist.
I don't
yeah,
know if you guys saw what I wrote in the chat, but users be users.
That
totally.
hashtag,
I
we're
mean,
hashtagging that.
that's ridiculous.
It's a real thing, and it's almost as if it is super smooth sailing until you start hearing no. The minute you hit that wall of no, the nah, I ain't got it in me today, I can't do it, or no, I can't help you pay your bills, or no, I won't do whatever the no was for you, then you start to notice that these ripples are getting a little bit more aggressive, right? And these asks are getting bigger
Agree,
and the attitudes are getting even bigger. Okay,
agree,
feel however you
agree.
want to feel with the puffy chest over there. And then I'm going to be over here minding my business and keeping all of my funds in my pockets.
Yeah, uh, it, it, I don't know. It's I think as people who are do what we do, okay, the things that we do, right? Um, from my standpoint, obviously the nonprofit is a nonprofit, right? I don't make any money out of this. It is not a for-profit situation, and I do think from the most in the most part, I do have pretty good discernment. I mean, I've had a number of followers drop into my DMs, requesting money, asking for things, and I know right away where that's from. I also can tell by their platform um, if they're not actually like working to be better, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so there is that effort to, oh, what can I get out of this? But then you look again, and I realize a platform only tells a 1 second story about somebody that day.
That
Okay.
part.
But at the same time, if there's, you know, I always look at people's platforms. If they slide into my DMs 9 times out of 10 before I respond to them, and if I don't know them, I go and look at what they're about first. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of people that I've had to block, because they just wanted something, and I knew it right away. But then there's those other ones, like you guys were just talking about, those opportunists that might take you a little bit to discover. I mean, again, the relationship that I had with this one woman was like 3+ years. There was a lot of support going in that direction. And, you know, again, it lasted for that season, which was lengthy. But yeah, now it's like never again, done, you know, and I move on. I don't even want to revisit it. And that might be selfish of me to not, even if the person did try to reach out to me to kind of express months later why they did what they did. But I think what they did and how they did it was so big that, especially because I'm going to tell you right now, I don't let anybody come into my home. So this is my private space.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sacred to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, so to feel abused and to feel used and abused within my sacred space, although, you know, I think forgiveness is very important, doesn't mean that I have to open that door again and be like, oh, okay, well, I completely understand why you did what you did then. I don't know. And that maybe that's wrong of me in a way, you know.
I don't think it is. And I think you brought up something really important is the first thing we need to do when someone starts following us is to go look at their platform.
Yeah.
If I can't even understand the language, I'm probably going to remove you. And it's not to be offensive, but if it looks like it's in gibberish, how can I even communicate with you?
Yeah.
So that's my first one. And then if all it has is a bunch of weird emojis like flags and says 21 years old, hottie or something like that, and then the pictures are all like girls in bikinis, I'm going to remove you. And the next one is if I'm looking at it and it doesn't even look like it's your pictures and it looks like pictures stolen from many sites, I'm going to remove you.
Oh yeah, you catfishing. You're getting catfished, baby.
You know how many people drop into those DMs in the request folder? Oh, hey, babe. Hey, honey. Can I give you $5,000?
Yeah.
And it's men and women. And I'm just like, I'm a happily married 43-year-old.
So
please back away.
So Danny, because you wear so many hats and you fact check, right? And you wear so many hats. How do you do that? How do you navigate your discernment with business relationships? Where what if you feel like something may be awry or amiss?
He's laughing.
What do you do? Because
girl, I've not perfected that at all. Okay. I told you, I'm working on discernment.
Work in progress sticker.
No, let me tell you, from a business standpoint, Thrive Construction, doing my construction business, I'll tell you, the best thing I can ever do is listen to my gut. Now, I do run my business very differently than most people. I interview my clients like they interview me. I cap my gross volume at 1.5 million a year. And basically I'm out there building quality work, not quantity. Like, again, it's, I have to make money. Yes, I run a business, but it's not about money to me as it is, really, you know, putting forth the quality as well as managing client expectations. So, and in that area of my life, I have struggled with discernment. Because there have been times when I've taken a job because I needed to slot something, even though inside I knew I shouldn't have taken the job. I felt it in my gut. I would tell the client, I just don't think we're the right fit. Then the client would be like, well, wait a minute. No, I really want a woman to build my project. I really want this to happen. And yet it bit me in the ass. So, and as far as the nonprofit goes, you know, I do get approached a lot with different organizations who want me to back a product, who, you know, and then I tell them I'm happy to try your product as long as everybody on my platform gets it for free. So, and then, you know, for a fact that that's not what their goal is. So, but I'm still learning, you know, I'm learning in the nonprofit world. And I'm learning because, you know, with other organizations that are raising money, which is why I try not to ask for money, because I feel like constantly that is what's being asked of me from other organizations. So I'm learning. I'm learning. In my personal relationships, I struggle with discernment a lot because I think ultimately we all want to be valued.
Mm-hmm.
We all want to be loved. We all want to be appreciated. Um, and people will come and tell me first thing, "Oh my God, I absolutely love you." I'm like, "Well, thank you, but you don't even really know me." Like, and so yeah, girl, I don't have it down. And I'll be the first one to say I don't have it down at all. I'm really struggling, but I do think it is important to listen to our guts, our intuition. If something doesn't feel right about a relationship, then step away, or why don't you just be a witness, right?
Yeah.
Be a witness because I have been told many times, Danielle, stop giving the answer. Let them figure it out first.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that. I'm guilty of giving the answer because I want to help. And
Yeah.
then I look back on things and I go, but then later when I feel devalued, when I know that there's so many other people that didn't mind saying, let me book this call with you, right? And then let me pay for your services because like a lot goes into let me answer your question, right? Um, and I think it stings more when it's somebody that is like on the same playing field as you. And I think it stings more. We try to figure out how to navigate that when you realize that that relationship isn't what you thought it was, right? When you become, like you said, like I try not to put out a lot of things that's going to require people to send me monies of sorts, right? And it is because it is my belief, like my heart of hearts, if my pricing structure is too high for the person who really needs it to afford it, am I kicking the can down the street? Right? So I do offer a lot of, hey, this is just some tips to get you started. But I think when business wise for me, where I struggle is when I start to realize that it is businesses taking tips from me that could afford to pay me for said tips. And then you sit and you go, why is this a thing? And you never really want to go, this was always a relationship of opportunity. Like you saw a strength in me, but not enough for you to value me monetarily in the strength that you saw or refer the strength out that because I still have bills to pay or not. But then it becomes but I wanted that. I needed that for me.
So that becomes kind of, that's a struggle too for us as business owners. Let me tell you, right? Is because once we give,
Mm-hmm.
then expectation is that we continue to give,
Right.
right? Set that precedence. We've laid out all of our cards, and so we've set that precedence of give, and then and people will take. This our society today builds more takers than it does givers because of
So
how.
true.
I mean, if you really think about our society and where we are as a culture today, since the world fell apart, we are a society of takers. And I try my best to be aware to not be a taker, but I'll tell you, I've probably done it.
Yeah.
And so, but I am so hard pressed on not being a taker that sometimes I expose all of my cards and give too much way too fast, which then sets the expectation that people are allowed to take from me. So I just want you to really think about that, right?
I needed to hear that just how you said it. Thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
think it's so important to find that middle ground, right?
Yeah.
That little sweet spot of still being a giver and having those relationships, but be a receiver too.
Yes.
Not a taker, a receiver. It's okay to receive happy mail and love and support and friendship and weird banana things in the mail.
Well, and it is very difficult for me to receive. It's hard for me to accept these things without feeling like I want to return the favor.
Yeah.
It's very difficult because again, that is my
You're a
Achilles
giver.
perceived as a taker.
You're a giver, and it's easier for you to give than to receive.
Yeah.
And so I'm challenging you right now to enjoy receiving right now.
Yes.
It's an expression of love and gratitude.
It's hard for me too. It's hard for me to let people show up for me because I have been burned by attempting to let people show up for me. So it's strange. When I got my first happy mail package from you, I was like, what is the catch? And then like I'm being like dead serious. What is the catch? And in this case, right? And okay, full transparency, I was like, this very bubbly white woman does not know me. Full transparency, this very bubbly white woman barely knows me. And I just gave her my address. And she sent me something that could have been anything. But I opened it and it made my eyes sweat. I was like, this was the kindest thing a stranger from the internet could have ever done. And you've been like consistent in just sending random mail. I look forward to the random mail from the bubbly white woman. Like, I look forward to that.
And I don't know how I convinced so many people to give me their address.
I know.
I don't even know it. I don't even know it because so many people are like, oh my gosh, I'm a happy mail. Here. I have no idea how I've done that. I'm glad that I'm not a crazy person, that I'm a normal person, because holy cow, I can't believe how many people give me their address. But I finally decided maybe I need to be a little more careful giving out mine.
That part.
And so now all the people that I'm super close with and I already have these relationships with, okay, you guys have my address. Yeah. My address is on the thing. But now that I'm having people buy like magnets and stickers from Etsy and new followers, I'm just signing at my Spoonie Sisters or Gracefully Jen or both and not giving my address because I don't know.
Because that is your
home, a little weird.
And it's your safe space. And not everybody needs that level of access to you. We're just going to keep foot stumping that. That is why your address isn't on there. Not everybody is entitled to that level of access to you. Not your phone number, not your address. It doesn't have to be. When you feel safe, you can share.
Well, and I think, we've gone so many different directions.
We have.
And we've gone really long. We probably should close soon. But I think, hopefully we've offered the listeners so much to think about, protecting yourself, protecting your heart, but still finding a way to put yourself out there in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Are there any tips or little bits of info you guys want to leave with people?
My last thing. Remember, you are not defined by the actions of others. You're defined by your actions, and as long as your actions are genuine and just and they have moral backing and you do it with character and love, you're not defined by what other people do to you. And they don't get to stop your story because they halted you with betrayal. Your story continues and you get to write every other chapter after that chapter of betrayal. So you replace that memory with something that brings you joy, and you use that memory, the hurt from that memory, as your lesson, your tackling fuel going forward to heal a heart instead of break a heart.
Oh, I love it. And I'm going to second that. I'm just going to say ditto. There you go. That's my.
Well, thank thank you both for joining. I'm going to stop the recording here in a second, but I won't be hanging up on you guys, just so you know. But thank you. And I cannot wait for people to hear this. And I hope that it offers something for everyone to think about when being a good friend, trying to be a good friend. And yeah.
This is great.
Like I said, words are not my friend today.
This is great.
Thank you both. And everyone out there, until next time, don't forget your spoon. The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. The information should not be taken as a replacement for medical, clinical, professional advice, diagnoses, or medical intervention. My Spoonie sisters and guests will not be held liable for any of the consequences of such action or inaction. Trigger warning. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics including, but not limited to, suicide, abuse, mental illness, and chronic disease. You are advised to refrain from listening if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. None of the guests or hosts will be responsible for your use of the information contained therein. Life is not merely to be alive, but to be well. Living a life with a chronic illness is best described with one word: unpredictable. Be Well's products are designed to make the unpredictable easier to deal with. Back when I was getting my infusions, I would have loved to have their adult zip hoodie. They even have one in pink. They also have everything from one-day pill holders to urgency buckets. So remember, they want to make your life a little easier. So be sure to check out Be Well.